Now let me do this. Welcome, everyone, to this afternoon's edition of Stories for Healing. As those of you who have been here before know, this is a project that was started just a little over a week ago, exactly a week ago, actually, to bring stories of healing to this divisive, fractured, kind of painfully fractured world we live in. Those of us in this country tend to associate that with the electoral process that we've been through and are still going through in many ways. But we know this is really an issue for our communities and our countries and our world. And as storytellers, we do know that we can bring healing by bringing stories about healing. And these stories don't tell you what to do or prescribe the answer. They open up our hearts and they help us understand that we must heal ourselves as we also invite healing in others. So we've had just a wonderful response from the storytelling community. I'm pleased to say that as of today, we've had over 1,500 views of these stories on Facebook, and we're getting 100 views a day on YouTube. So it's obviously, I'm very humbled by the need that this seems to be serving. Today, we're very excited to welcome Heather Forrest to us to tell us a couple of stories, actually. So, Heather, please tell us a story.
There once was a man with quarrelsome children. Even on his dying day, they bickered. My last wish, he says, is for you to bring me a bundle of sticks. When this was done, he gave each child one and said, take your solitary twig in hand and break it. Crack, crack went the dry old wood as each child broke their solitary twig. Now, he said, bind them together, tie them, you'll see how much stronger your brittle twig can be. Well, the old man passed away, and his children, they never forgot that day, though they each lived separate, distant lives, each sister, each brother. In times of trouble, they bonded together like a bundle of sticks, giving strength to one another. Sometimes there are troubles and discordant moments in families that need to be healed, and sometimes it happens among friends. If it happens to folks, there's probably a folk tale about it. That was an old Aesop's fable that I set to music. Here's a story about quarreling that comes from the Congo, and it's a tale about two friends who fall into disarray. It answers one of the most ancient questions: why do people fight? There were once two friends. They were friends when they were small. They were friends when they learned to crawl. They were friends when they learned to walk. They were friends when they learned to talk. They shared their laughter and their tears, their hopes and their fears, because they were friends. They even protected each other in the hunt. One day, when those two young boys were hunting for food in the jungle, one turned to the other and said, What's going to happen to our friendship when we grow up? If we marry women who live in different places, we'll never see each other's faces. For it was the custom of that time and of that place for a man to go and live in the compound of his bride's family. I have an idea, said one to the other. Oh, you are as dear to me as a brother. When we grow up, let's marry sisters. Sisters will want to live close to one another, and then we'll always be friends. And that's just what they did. When those two boys grew up, and it was time for them to seek brides, they set forth together on a journey, and they came to a village where there were two beautiful sisters. They courted those two women with songs and stories and food, and those two sisters agreed to the marriage, and they were married. They built their houses facing one another. There was just enough room between the two houses for a path wide enough for one to walk, no wider than the border between two countries. And at the end of the work day, when those two friends had finished their labor in the fields, they would sit in front of their doorways and they would talk to each other across the path while their wives prepared their suppers and the good cooking smells mingled with their conversation. They shared their laughter and their tears, their hopes and their fears, because they were friends. Now, one night, along came the village trickster. Ooh, he was a tricky man because he liked to test things. When he saw those two friends talking so nicely to each other across the path, he thought to himself, I could make them fight. I could make them fight. I could make them fight. He went to the elders of the village and began to boast. You know those two friends who came to our village and married sisters? Those two friends who built their houses facing one another? Those two friends who spent every night in pleasant conversation? I could make them fight. No, said the elders. Don't you know their story? You could never make them fight. They were friends when they were small. They were friends when they learned to crawl. They were friends when they learned to walk. They were friends when they learned to talk. They have even protected each other in the hunt. You could never, ever, 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 ever make them fight. Watch. And that night, that tricky man went home and he made a funny coat. It was divided down the middle. One half of the coat was completely blue. The other half of the coat was completely red. The next night, when those two friends were sitting in front of their doorways, talking to each other across the path, that tricky man put on his funny two-colored coat and he walked directly between them, making absolutely certain that they noticed him go by. La 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 la. And he kept on walking. And the two friends, well, they kept on talking. The first friend said, "Oh, friend, now wasn't that a beautiful blue coat that man was wearing who just walked by?" "No, friend, I saw him go by. The man's coat was red." "You must have blinked. You don't know what you said. The man's coat was blue. What I say is true." I don't know what I saw, friend. And I know what I said. The man's coat, it was red." "Oh, friend, sometimes I think you know everything. But you don't know everything. What I say is true. Friend, admit it. The man's coat was blue. The man's coat was red. The man's coat, friend, was blue. No, the man's coat was red. blue, red. They beat each other on the head. Blue, red. You are not my friend. Blue, red. What I say is true. Red. Their wives came outside. There were their husbands rolling around in the dust, kicking and fighting and making a fuss. Blue, red. What are you doing? They cried. Stop this! You were friends when you were small. You were friends when you could crawl. You were friends when you learned to walk. You were friends when you learned to talk. Why are you fighting? Stop! But they wouldn't stop. Blue, red. What I say is true. Red, blue, red. In the middle of all the fuss, the tricky man came back. But this time, he walked straight toward them so they could see his whole coat. La 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 la. When they saw what he was wearing, they were outraged. You tricked us. You divided us. You started a war between us. Don't blame me, said the tricky man. I didn't make you fight. You're both wrong. And you're both right. What each of you said is completely true. You're fighting because you only looked at my coat from your own point of view. La 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 la.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Let me unpin you there. Thank you, Heather. Thank you. What a great story, and a great pair of stories, actually, but great stories.
Thank you.
How did you first encounter that second story? Do you remember?
I heard that story from Diane Ferlot many years ago about a man in a black and white hat,
Hmm.
and as is my uh, technique of research, I wanted to find where it came from, and I tracked it back to the late 1800s, to a folkloric text in which it was a blue and red coat, and so I used that. But it was first heard from a storyteller, which starts me on my research journey usually. And then I haunt the libraries and track them back.
And I love the message that what both say is true. They just have to be able to see the world from a different point of view and know that there's more than one truth to the
Right?
world. Yeah,
Every side has another side.
that's right. That's right. Well, a great lesson for today in particular. And I know we had spoken about this, that the colors blue and red emerged a long time before 2020. But still something very important for us all to hear today. So I'd like to just conclude by reminding people that this is something that happens every day, twice a day at 2:30 in the afternoon and 8 in the evening on Facebook Live here, as those of you who are here know. It also goes to the YouTube playlist that we've created for it so that you can go back and see things you've missed or watch again those that you particularly love. I invite you, please, learn the lessons of living with an open heart and an open point of view. Learn the lessons of listening and speaking to each other, and share this opportunity for people to hear stories and to listen to each other. Uh, Thanks again, and we'll be seeing you before very long. Have a good day.